Hey gang, Voltie here, back with another deck tech. Today we're going to be continuing our series on Nadu decks with a very different take from the previous one. So this is Temur Nadu, and as you'll see very quickly, this is far more focused on tempo and controlling the board and using Nadu as a way to end the game, much the same way that Blue Moon used to play a twin combo so that it could close. So let's get started. First things first, we have Wrenn 6. This is 2 of our points. This card is very good in control decks and slower decks because you can generate land advantage and you can make sure that you hit all your land drops. However, in this particular deck, we can also pick up Urza's Saga over and over again, which allows us to get a long stream of uncounterable threats to end the game. So I think the Wrenn 6 Urza's Saga synergy is the main reason I wanted to explore Temur for Nadu, because obviously Saga can get Shuko, and Shuko works with Nadu, and then having a stream of threats with Wrenn 6 gives you an extra angle of attack. For creatures, we're a little light, so this is a very different perspective on your typical Nadu deck building. The previous Nadu decks have all been very creature heavy, playing pod, etc. But because this is a spell deck, all of our creatures have to be very premium and have to do something to impact the board in terms of tempo. So we have Darcy and Temur as our 1-drops. Darcy gives us card selection, Temur gives us raw cards. Ice Fang, Ledger Shredder, Morlock, Snapcaster as another point. Tarmogoyf and Springheart Nantuko. It's going to be very rare that you play Springheart Nantuko as a creature in this deck. Ideally, you want to bestow it onto a Tarmogoyf or onto a Morlock or a Ledger Shredder, and you can start generating extra creatures from there. At 3, we have Nadu and Uro, so that's another 3 points there, and Subtlety for a bit of interaction, so it's not really a creature. So if you count Nantuko as a spell and Subtlety as a spell, we actually only have 9 creatures. So the rest of the deck really reflects that. It's very heavy on counter magic, very heavy on cantrips, and making sure that you can keep casting Uro over and over again, and also assemble all the pieces for a Nadu combo to close the game out. For sorceries, there aren't any removal spells, it's all card advantage. So we have a Probe, a Ponder, a Preordain, an EI, and a Lorien revealed. At Instance, we have our interaction suite, so we have a couple of cantrips, but then we've got a Bolt, some counter magic, a Stifle, and an Unholy Heat. Counterspell, Growth Spiral, Planar, Genesis at 2, so we have a counterspell and 2 card draw spells as well as ramp spells. Flame of Anor, which does have a pretty high wizard count despite our low creature count. Snapcaster is a wizard, Nadu is a wizard, Tamiyo is a wizard. So 3 out of our 9 creatures are wizards, and that way you should be able to get 2 instances out of your Flame of Anor, with the most obvious example being using Snapcaster to cast it. And then we have 2 blue forces to fill it out. For artifacts, we have both baubles for Ledger Shredder and for Darcy, as well as for Delirium for our Unholy Heat. We have a Soul Guide Lantern as a toolbox card to get with your Saga, and then we have Shuko, which is obviously something you're going to be getting with Saga in order to trigger your Nadu. Realistically, if you crack 2 Sagas in a game using Wrenn 6, you should be able to get all of the artifacts out of your deck. Play pattern wise, I wouldn't be leaving the baubles in play just to grow your Saga tokens, however it is something worth considering. But otherwise, there are a couple of different ways you can generate extra artifacts. Tamiyo makes clues, and Fable of the Mirror Breaker makes treasure tokens, so it's not too difficult to get your Saga tokens to be very real threats, especially if you keep looping it with Wrenn 6 in a grindier matchup. For our mana base, nothing too crazy here. We have a Boseiju and an Odawara and a Saga. We're also playing a Field of the Dead. Now I know that this is a pet card of mine and some people are sick of seeing it show up in decks, but when you're playing Nadu, Field of the Dead really shines. You're flipping a lot of extra lands on your Nadu turns, you're getting a lot of extra creatures that you can then keep flipping, and you can get to an insurmountable board state. This deck in particular is also looking to slow the game down. We've got Wrenn 6, we've got Uro, we have plenty of ways to get to the late game and make sure that we have enough fuel to end it. And Field of the Dead, you can side it out in bad matchups, otherwise there aren't really any other utility lands that you could be playing. We're not playing a ring, so Minimo isn't super useful, and we don't have any points spare for Caracas, which would be the other consideration. Our sideboard, because we're in Temur, we have access to some of the best sideboard cards in the business. We've got 4 blasts, we've got a Bifrost for artifacts, and a Collector Oof as well. We have a Carpet of Flowers, a Haywire Mite as a saga target, a Relic as a secondary saga target. We have a Sylvan Safekeeper. This is going to be for any matchup where your opponent is going to be interacting with your board in a meaningful way, but that you also want to be going for a Nadu kill as early as possible. Sylvan Safekeeper makes sure that that part of the combo is safe. If you expect that your Shuko is safe in those matchups, then you can go for it much earlier, get a mana advantage, and just hold up counter spells for the rest of the game. The deck is also playing a Damping Sphere. Even though we have access to Blood Moon and Harbinger of the Seas, the colorless lands in our deck, Field of the Dead and Urza Saga, are impactful enough that I don't want to turn them off. Damping Sphere also has splash hate against Storm decks and Breach, as well as any decks that are trying to cast lots of spells at the same time, so it's quite good there. And then we have a suite of free spells: Endurance, Force of Vigor, Fury, Submerge. Nothing too crazy, nothing you haven't seen before. Otherwise, this is the other direction you can take Nadu in. This is now my 3rd deck, or 4th deck, posted on the channel that has Nadu in it, but they all have very different directions, and I think that's a really interesting place for the card to be. Its floor is really, really high, but its ceiling is also kind of absurd, and so I think having the option for skill expression and deck building expression when playing a card like Nadu is really cool. And if you are excited to play the card because you're playing it in Modern and it's banned now, there's going to be some kind of Nadu deck that appeals to you out of all of these options. And if it's this one, let me know how it goes. This video was brought to you with the help and support of my patrons and donors. If you'd like to support me and the content and see your name up here on screen, there are some links below to the Ko-Fi and the Patreon. If you like the content, please do consider subscribing. You'll be notified of upcoming videos. It doesn't cost you anything and will help grow the channel and get a bit of visibility. Otherwise, leave a like if you like the video, and I'll catch you next time.